Good evening. This is Chantaye McLaughlin with Unjust. Tonight we're going to have Mr. Anton Parks Sr., who is a, a former gang leader, and who he is to the community is someone who's been giving back. So what that looks like is creating programs that impact people who are previously incarcerated, currently incarcerated, their families, the community, helping to reunify communities. We spend a lot of time talking about the lack of justice. Tonight, we're going to spend time talking about justice. We're also going to spend some time talking about those moments in which there's a couple of cases out there that make no sense. Like, how do you go to prison for armed robbery with no weapon, right? How do you get a triple murder in a state that you've never been in or that you were in for 4 days? Like little things like that, to most people, it makes sense. To us, it doesn't. I mean, it does make sense. It just doesn't make common sense. So we're going to talk about all of this tonight with Mr. Anton Parks. So right now, we're going to bring him in. Hi, Mr. Parks. Hi, Mr. Anton.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Great.
How are
So
you,
how are you
Queen?
this evening? I'm great.
I'm doing good. I'm well and blessed.
So would you like to, how would you like to introduce yourself? So we haven't gone through what my show is like. This is a conversation. It's not too formal, but it's a real conversation about some things that we need to talk about in our communities. Some different cases where there hasn't been justice. And I know you've been lobbying and fighting for a bunch of legislation to be passed to be able to impact our communities. So start us off.
Okay, my name is Anton Park Sr. I'm a 45-year-old dad, first, son, a citizen, a neighbor in the community. I started out my path as a young man, seeking attention from my dad who lived in a different state. By the age of 11, my stepdad told him don't return to the home, and he did it for whatever reason. So, in seeking his guidance, I found some elders in the community that would invest in me as far as, I wanted some nice shoes. I wanted to fit in with the crowd. I wanted to know how to be, a young man and a man. So they taught me the best way they knew, and that involved me joining Gangster Disciples in the early 90s. I had a family background. My cousins and family from Chicago was already in that movement from the 70s and 80s. So I did get a little direction when I did join. So there was some rules told to me that you respected the community, the women, elders, and children, that I was not allowed to use any illicit drugs, that I was not allowed to break into any of the houses and cars in the neighborhood, and that I was required to get a high school diploma and some form of education. But as you know, in the streets, you do what you see. So I had to learn, like a lot of people, that crime doesn't pay, that no shortcuts are good shortcuts, unless you walk into the field, through the field to the store. But we'll start at 2010. I was a single dad. I had been working with a guy, Pastor Grace in Toledo, to do prevention work. So he started a couple companies that he would go downtown to the judges and ask them to release low level offenders to him. He can have them cut grass, come to his community program, which was Grace United. Over on Collingwood and Cherry in Toledo. And what he would
I was
do
going to say,
is not
hold on,
only
real quick. Where is Toledo at? Because I'm in Atlanta,
Toledo, Ohio.
Georgia.
I'm sorry. Yes, Toledo, Ohio. I'm a Georgia boy, but I have a dual citizenship in Ohio. So yes, in Toledo, Ohio. Pastor Grace would not only help people with their problems with the courts downtown, he would also get tons of food. And when I say tons, I used to help unload the trailers of food to pass out to the community: Minute Maid juices, Jif peanut butter, real food, grapes, oranges,
I was about to say, none of them
and
have
not
cut a
really
check to
spoiled.
sponsor this show. So Minute Maid, Jif, all we know is some peanut butter that came from somewhere, and we are grateful.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, so from that, he taught me some things. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, from there he taught me some
I can,
things
and I'm big on people who
dealing with.
support. Okay. I was just going to say I said it like
Oh
that because I'm
yeah,
big on people who support our community, and it may have been the grocery store, not necessarily that corporation, and it could have been that corporation. But when it comes to supporting our community and sharing on our platforms, they have to support our community.
exactly. And so, like I said, Pastor Grace would get they would actually buy them, him and another guy. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it's a white gentleman that worked at the Toledo refinery where they do make the oil in Toledo and the gasoline. Pastor Grace was the first black male to work there in the 60s when he came back from the military, and then he became a supervisor, the first black supervisor. So one of him and one of his colleagues said, "Hey, we're going to feed our community." So they would take their own money and go to Michigan and buy tons of food to give out to the community annually, either weekly or monthly. And I was proud to be a part of that. I actually should have sent you the newspaper article about that in the Toledo Journal. So Pastor Grace died in 2017. At that time, well, let me go back to 2010. I was paralyzed in a roof collapse and had to go through some surgeries. I was a single dad of 3 kids, one of them 24 hours a day. Me and his mom agreed that it would be better for a black male to be raised by a black male, dealing with the Trayvon Martin situation and a lot of other situations, to try to groom them to be able to be a good citizen. So, but without selling out who they are. So in 2010, I was hurt. We'll fast forward to 2017. Pastor Grace died, I think, in May. In June, my son, he was going to graduate. He was being put in the paper for tutoring other students. He didn't like the situation in the apartments that we were living in. He made a call about the narcotic sales. Me and one of the guys who he called about got into a conversation about threats he was sending to my 12-year-old son. After the police getting involved and the community getting involved, he did come and attack me to get to my son. One day he was hurt. I actually called and saved his life. Later on, I found out that a detective that had nothing to do with the case, but was one of his drug detectives, had filed a warrant on me after the detectives in the case stated that I should be cleared. It took 93 days to clear that. I laid in the holding cell for 3 days in my urine and feces. The nurse there was not qualified. She had been there 20 something years, but she stated to the guards that I was faking from the injuries I received. She said that no one has a brain transplant, even though my lower brain tissue was transplanted, which is your nervous system. My C2 through C6-7 was fused and transplanted and then covered with the plate and screws that I still have today. And they assaulted me because the detective told them that I was the heroin dealer and that I stabbed the informant. So I don't blame the prosecutor or the jail. I kind of blame the system where you can have a crooked detective manipulate the system all the way down to my trial and then them figure it out and them tell me we can't do anything about it because the guy who pointed the finger at you, you can sign his paper and he go or you go, but nobody's going free. And so that made me start doing some investigations into the processes that we face. I was a 40-year-old retired gang member who didn't kill anybody or do any crimes to land me in prison, and I actually was doing community work helping our community. I was a part of the Better Communities and Family, which is the BCF, which is Blood, Crips, and Folks who have come together to stop gang violence, mandate education, help each other get jobs, and stop the current situation of revolving doors into the prison and the preschool to prison pipeline. So when I was incarcerated, the prosecutor even said, "Hey, don't take a plea, just send him to jail. Look what he did to you." The community was saying, "Hey, just send him to jail. Right is right. You can get your retaliation here." But in my spirit, it just didn't sit right to point a finger at anyone and say they did something they didn't do in revenge. He lied on me. He attempted to hurt me and my son at my home. So my problem wasn't this man, it was the policies that put me in jail, which was no self-defense law in Ohio. There was a attack on people who use drugs and sell drugs, when the problem is the policies and the situation, which we call the projects. They are not just the buildings, but they're the whole situation to destroy our families. So I did some investigations to see who was in power, what policies and what programs were in place, and then my plan was to infiltrate them. I never thought that I would be vice president, president, owner of a company, and so consulting in so many areas, dealing with reentry and the processes that we need to change. But so I'll start with a couple of my titles. With our felony reentry, which was necessary because when I went to jail, it was because of my lack of knowledge. It wasn't because the guy attacked me. You know, I had a responsibility to know the law, engage with the law. It wasn't when I was in jail, the responsibility of the jail or the courts to make sure I had a comfy return, even when they found out I wasn't guilty. So I engaged with the Felony Reentry Coalition. I started with the Brothers United and the Tyro program. The Tyro program is a CDL, a leadership core communication program developed by Ron and Kathy Tiarina. Ron went to jail. He came home and then he got put back in jail for the same charge, kind of a double jeopardy. Kathy and one of her friends at church came up with the Ridge Project, which was a program to support wives and children while the father was incarcerated, or the father and the children while the mother was incarcerated, because they saw a need that there were no programs for reentry when people come home. And so that caused recidivism, where you would go back to prison or just put in a space of poverty. So I joined their program. I took the leadership training. I took the core communication, so I'm able to teach that in prisons and schools and libraries. And the Brothers United program, that is a fatherhood initiative started by Avis and Mike Files. They saw a need in our community where there was a disconnect between the mothers, the fathers, which are co-parents, not baby mamas and baby daddies. And they saw the need to engage with child support, which was not helping the co-parents. They were actually causing division. So I joined their program, and after graduating, I was able to become one of the alumni and the vice president of the alumni, and help the guys to navigate jobs, medical, anything they needed to do to, again, have a healthy relationship with their kids and the community, and especially their co-parents. Past then, I went
Hold on. You know, anybody, I was about to say, anyone who knows me knows I'm that baby mama, where this whole conversation here, can you please explain this to me? Because in my world, it's baffling. You know, like there once was this part of me that said, no matter what, I will never file for child support. I will refuse to allow the state to be in my business. I refuse to allow the state to incarcerate someone who I once may or may not have loved, but who I procreated with and created a child. I refuse for their license to be taken, which ends up stopping them from being employed, which ends up stopping them from getting credit. And then I became a baby mama twice and in child support court twice. So on this side of it, I really understand it, because one thing, you know, and both of my baby daddies are 6 and 7 figure earners. So let me say that. And so one of them said to me, you can't force me to be a man. You can't force me to call my child, but you should send me a bathing suit picture, you know, like.
Well, see, let me tell you the power of what you just said.
You help me out with this one, sir.
Let me tell you the power, though, in what you just said, because you're right. No co-parent should have to file against the other co-parent. The system needed a revamping. But before we get to that, let me state this. All 3 of my sons, I went to the courts. I asked them with a petition to, in one way or the other, give me physical custody of my children, at least 45%. I went to child support once we got swabbed, and I said, hey, this is my kid. This is what I make. What should I pay a month? So I engaged child support with the relationship. And I think every dad or mom who is not the custodial parent should do this. And so, because of the responsibility, child support is not the maximum you should put into your kid. I don't care how much, if they say 200 a month or 2,000, that's based off a scale of what you make. But as a parent, we'll pay for the lights, the gas, and the rent, but we still buy our kids ice cream. We still buy them some Jordans if they deserve it, or an iPad. So I think the parent that's the non-custodial should go and form a relationship with the child support and figure out what's best for co-parenting. If the other parent does not complain, they usually don't enforce. Enforcement sits there and waits for calls from co-parents, either the mother or the father, whichever one is custodial, to say, hey, enforce on this person. Other than that, they normally do not get involved, but they do want every penny. But that's the responsibility. When we lay down and say, hey, I'm going to risk it, or hey, I'm going to plan it, I think when we bring a life, it is one of the most precious things besides time. The female vagina, which is the only way the babies get here. Like, there are a few things that are very precious, so we should guard those. But I understand the fear that we're taught that, child support and that's jail, but it's not. That wasn't my path. I've been paralyzed. I've been without work. But because I have a relationship with my co-parents and child support, I've never been threatened to go to jail. I engaged the relationship. I have to tell the worker sometime, hey, I'm your client. But for the most part, if you participate, and it's not all gravy, it's not. My middle son's mom, we don't get along. Like, she kidnapped my kid at one point, but I don't hold a grudge. I have extraordinary children, but at the end of the day, me engaging with the courts and child support gave me rights that you don't have. And I think if you care and you want to engage in your children's lives, one of the most beautiful ways you can show them is to take responsibility for them and take custody, not to fight with the co-parent, but to say, hey, you belong to me. You're mine. I love you. And look, hey, the state, the Fed, and locally, you belong to me, not just in biology. So, and now I want to speak to the part of the fear. We've been changing the policy with child support. It used to be you had to pay or go to jail. Now you only pay a minimum of $20 if you're not working and you can show that you're indigent. You could pay $20 a month until you get back on your feet. They won't take your license anymore unless you are egregious in your non-payment of support. If you got a job or keep quitting jobs and you dodging your child, I won't cuss on your thing, but I'll say F you. I think you deserve everything you should get. Cheating your child in his life. As people of color, we are already behind. We need to learn economic growth, social, civil ways to deal with each other, political ways to engage and teach each other these things. But we can't cheat our children because they truly are the future. So child support is not a bad thing unless you're trying to beat your children or the system. And so I support it, but only with changes that need to be made, because it shouldn't be for profit. It should be for the child's well-being.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and what's interesting too, because my 5-year-old Gregory was in foster care the first 2.5, almost 3 years of his life. And I was in the reunification process. So I don't know if it's the same across the board when it comes to different states. And I'm saying that because at some point with him being in foster care, the child support courts took me to child support, like in the reunification process. If I didn't have my paperwork and my documentation showing that I was close to getting my son back, if I didn't have letters, like I had letters from my therapist, letters from my lawyer, and I had a public defender, but I had a whole team. Like, some kind of way she pulled together a whole team. A lot of them were Muslim, and they came through for me. Even when it was time to get my son back, like we had to, like, I ended up, like, I had to show furniture, They had to take pictures.
Man.
And
Yeah, and they
they
do
had to
that.
open the cabinets and take
It
pictures and
is
make sure I could
different.
show food in the cabinets, that
It
I could
is
feed them.
different for each state though. Like so, Ohio, some of the things y'all will face, it will be different, but that's where our communication and education of each other and political engagement comes in, because then we should gather people from the state and lobby and figure out what happened here to make them change the laws. I was a part of that. But Avis Files and a few other people were the spearheaders in our county, and then other people in the state to push that to where we went into child support and made deals with them and had them change policy themselves, and then policy was changed statewide. So Stacey Abrams want to get in office. Hey, sis, this is what we need from you. And if we vote you in and you play us, we're going to find somebody to replace you with. The thing is, we have a wealth in our youth, and those that are in college, we need to guide them like a spear. We need to tell them we need more officers. We don't need to tell them it ain't cool to be the police. No, we need more of y'all to be the police, but we need you to be morally grounded. And when you raise your hand and say you pledge to that Constitution, stand on that, even if your brethren officers are off point. And we need that. And same thing with attorneys and judges. The more of us we can get that are personable with the mental health issues, the Black maternal health issues, the different things that are imposed on us, and then we have distractions and gifts to circumvent that. So they'll give us clothes, cell phones, nice TVs, cars. We have access to that, but we don't have access to the best health care. We don't have access to the best attorneys and the best, because it's a small group of us that can access that, and then the group that doesn't, they'll shun us. They'll, oh, you're a sellout, or you're this and you're that, when we're just trying to share the way for all of us to make it up and out of that project situation. So it's a two-headed knife, and you have to, one, get the people to want to come, and then two, we have to educate each other on how did you do this in your area? How did you change this policy in your state? Because we are a United States, and if one place did it, that's where the education. So Center for Popular Democracy, I was going to get to that.
Hold on, real quick before you get to that. Could you please explain what public policy is? Like, sometimes as we get educated as individuals, we take it for granted that all people in our community understand words and language like public policy, and how we get jammed up a lot of times, not just in the world of incarceration, even when it's time to apply for those colleges and those universities, when it's time to fill out an application, when it's time to write a resume, when it's time to take ourselves to another level, it's inside of language. And a lot of people don't understand the language of public policy. So before you expound on the things you're doing inside of public policy, would you take a moment to please explain what public policy is, sir?
Yes, I definitely will. So if you want the definition, the principle that injury to the public good is a basis for denying the legality of a contract or other transaction. So, like, okay, public policy is the laws or the ordinances that will bind us. So the policy, so say child support, they have certain policies that they follow. So say, hey, he didn't pay by this day. Our policy says we can put a warrant out on him and lock him up or suspend his license. And usually they have a judge just signing papers as they come through, because the policy states this is the mandate that they use. Another public policy would be, hey, we have an ordinance, you do 35 in this speed zone. So the public policy is what governs you locally in your community. And those policies can be changed with the voters, petitions, or the legislators, which make the policy for you. They can change them as well, such as your city council, your mayor, your senators, and your house members. They can change policies that bind you, but usually it's about financial means, or the investors, or the people who own the most property in your city. So that's when the citizens have to come together and petition, or come together and meet and vote out that policy. because there are contingencies, so you don't have one party controlling everything. You have different bodies, but the majority body should be the citizens. Our vote, what we want, should be first. So that's what the public policy is. And people don't know that they can change them. We usually call the people who are imposing the policy on us and complaining to them when there are contingencies set to go above them, or how to change the policy to fit the time and the citizens living in that time.
Thank you so much. Now, sir, will you please explain to us or share with us all of the things that you're doing, the good that you're doing in the communities in Ohio, and how that can impact Georgia, Mississippi, and all of the additional states that you're looking to go into?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna start with the Center for Popular Democracy out of Washington, D.C. Jennifer Flynn Walker. She is an amazing little short white lady. When I first met her, I was like, who is this lady? And why did they fly me to Washington to learn from her? So the first thing we did was we helped construct the farm bill with Elizabeth Warren, Ayanna Pressley, and a lot of great women of color in DC. We sat in that conference room. We went to that Senate House. They asked us what should go in there. They didn't change a word. They didn't change a statement. They actually constructed a farm bill from what every person that they flew in from different states had constructed together. So Center for Popular Democracy will come to any state as long as you have about 15 to 20 people who are willing to learn how to change policy, how to write bills, how to do the things that you need to do in your area to be in a better democracy. I feel that every state should take advantage of this. Center for Popular Democracy, if you didn't hear me, Jennifer Flynn Walker. You can contact me or sis if you really want to engage, but she will come to any state and train for bird dogging, for lobbying, political engagement, how to change policy in your area, how to change laws in your state. They are like, listen, they pay for everything and they do a great job. They are very much responsible for my engagements when I go to the state house and knowing what to do and how to get things changed. I can say with felony reentry, we're working on bail reform with the ACLU right now. We are making ground with Senate Bill 182 and House Bill 315 in Ohio. And that states that your bail should be a contingent of what you make in your crime, not from a schedule from the gerrymandering maps to show you're from the projects or the ghetto. You work at McDonald's, you make $20,000 a year, but they'll give you a $75,000 bail bond for something that you haven't been convicted of, just to hold you in jail. Well, this keeps you from fighting your case. This keeps you from being able to obtain a lawyer. Usually people lose their houses, custody of their children, as I did in 2017, and it just destroys your life. So we are coming up with strategies and different policy that will help the state save money by not charging high bail, keeping people in jail, because it costs an astronomical amount to keep this overcrowding of the jail going. We can put that into programs such as my felony reentry alumni training, which finds people jobs, get them in school, get them medical, anything you prospectively need to keep your life on track. We walk with you hand in hand and connect you with so say you need a CQE, which is a certified quality employment certificate in Ohio, which gives felons and people without education the right and work in certain fields. So say you need that, we get those for you. We get you felony expungements and licensing, different things that will be normally impossible for people coming home from jail. We're trying to expand that to Georgia right now. We have a couple, Tim Chapman, which is the Dublin police chief, a couple GBI agents, a couple, people that are pastors at churches and different organizations like the Tyrell program in Atlanta, waiting for us to come and help the community there change policy and come up to 2022 when we're dealing with our community. The most important thing is in the Black community is for the family to be reinstated. It doesn't mean that the family has to live in the same home. It doesn't mean abuse has to happen or somebody comes home from prison and they're welcome back in your bed. But as a family structure, we have to show our children unity. We have to show them problem resolution. And so the first place they learn how to resolve problems is mom and dad. So if mom and dad is at war, you might see that the child is at war, you know, throughout life with conflict because mom and dad can't work it out and they see this. So even if you hide it, they still don't see the conflict resolution that is necessary. They should see y'all mad. They should see y'all sort that out. Even if y'all yell, that y'all get over that, y'all sort that out, y'all hug, kiss, shake hands, dap each other up, whatever, you know, it's proper for your relationship. That's important for their growth. And a lot of these things need to be discussed in different forums. We need to start meeting annually as a Black family in different groups, but giving the same message, just like the Jehovah's Witness does every Sunday. Give the same message and teach each other and grow. So there's no way possible to name all the spaces I'm in. I'm in a chair with the ACLU Ohio Bill Reform, the VP of the Brothers United Initiative, VP of the Tyro Program, the VP of the one of the classes at Mercy College, Assets Toledo, their recruiter. I do recruitment and I do grants and loans as the liaison for the Economic Community Development in Ohio, ECDI, and our SBA. I do referrals for SCORE mentorship, and they have SCORE mentors in every state. If you have
hold on, slow down.
I'm sorry.
You're using a lot of acronyms. Go back.
I'm
could
sorry.
You please share what they are?
Okay, so let's start with, well, the SCORE acronym, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. When I graduated Assets, I know it's a SCORE program in every city. That's with the Small Business Association. Your SBA, if you contact them and say, hey, I'm looking for a SCORE mentor, they'll know what you're talking about. But what SCORE is, it's a business person in your community that is in your field, but is usually a millionaire or their business is very successful. And for a tax write-off, they will teach somebody that business through the Small Business Administration and walk them all the way through setup of the business, inventory, taxes, growth, show them how to mimic what they did to be profitable. And they have one in every city. So if you call your Small Business Administration and say, hey, I have a business or I'm trying to start a business, where's my SCORE mentor? They will ask you a couple questions and you will get a call from a SCORE representative in your area. That's a very important program. But of course, CNN, Fox, and the newspaper won't tell you about this because this is something that would empower a person individually and empower the community as a whole. ECDI, which is the Economic Community Development, they're in Ohio. I am not sure if they're in other states, but you do have economic community development partners in each state that invest in small businesses. So with the economic community development, they're different from a bank. A bank wants you to invest your money and your property deeds into them. So the banker and the majority investors in the bank, they make money investing your money every day, every minute, every second. The credit unions are a little bit better, but when you get into economic community development or SBA lenders, they only want to lend to you to make your business better. So it's smaller interest, better loans, and then loans you couldn't get from a bank, you can be able to get from them for probably a little higher interest. But they don't only give you loans and grants, they teach classes. So right now we have they are having special classes for Black women entrepreneurs in Ohio. They're giving out special grants to Black women entrepreneurs in Ohio who are starting up in their first year of business or just need help, you know, keeping their doors open post the pandemic or during the pandemic. So they are a very powerful group. And again, I work with anybody who is looking to stop crime, stop the revolving door from, preschool to prison, and wants to economically, politically, or socially empower our community to get out of the rut that we're in. And that involves education. That involves our financial situation. We're one of the richest group of people in the world, but we just can't get right. And then with education and social order, because social media and social platforms are the biggest, like Meta, they're the biggest money maker. They're the biggest education platform that there is, and we need to start utilizing it before it's too late.
So how does this impact people who are previously incarcerated coming home, or, one of the people I know with Women on the Rise, they had to launch their own micro lending program because women were coming out of incarceration and they were unwilling to lend to them, or they didn't meet all of the requirements. So how can these programs impact not just women, but just people in general coming out of incarceration?
Well, see, the programs, this is the thing. There's no magic dust. There's no magic wand. So there will be hurdles, but that's the best part of this connection of the resources, is because whatever your hurdles is, a lot of people have credit hurdles. So we have people that help you with your credit. It's not always free. Life is not free, but most of the time we try to work it out where if we can get grants, loans, or just people like me who will donate some of their time, we'll show you the process, if not do it for you. But usually it's some criteria that you have to straighten out that you messed up, and that's part of the accountability of coming home and wanting to straighten up your life, is to take those extra steps that you need to take, but with the assistance. The problem is usually there is no programming or no assistance to help you. And so now that there is, how it can specifically help people is by giving you the training, helping you get your credit together, helping you secure employment that not only just is week to week and pay checks, but now felons can get 401ks. They can sell insurance. It's a lot of things that you couldn't do, but you have to work yourself up to that. You can't just come home. Now, it is an option to do these programs in prison, but that since they're still at their infant stage, a lot of people didn't know, and they're probably about to be up on their time, so they can come home and engage. But if you follow through with a couple things, that's really not as hard as spending 10, 15 years in prison. You are able to re-engage as a citizen and not as a felon. You are able to operate as a businessman and a business owner. Like, I do a lot of things that felons couldn't do 15 years ago. As a felon 15 years ago, I couldn't go in the White House working. I couldn't go in my state house and work. I couldn't, like I said, sell insurance. I'm working on my license to get a notary and sell insurance now. These are things that were not possible because of felonies. So
there's more money in adjusting.
Yes, there's way more money for everybody. Even you can even say the prisons, because they'll save money on manpower. You can say the law enforcement, because you won't have as many people committing crimes. You'll have more people going to work and more people working their business solutions.
No. So, what I mean by adjusting is there's insurance and there's insurance adjusting. So for instance, there's insurance, like you get a license, you work in property and casualty, you work in what's it called? You can work as an insurance broker. You can work in losses. But there's adjusting. So a lot of people don't realize, especially if you've been incarcerated, adjusting is a good way to go. I used to be the Department of Financial Services complaint supervisor for an adjusting company. I created the system for Hurricanes Charlie, Francis, Gene, and Ivan to answer the complaints from the insurance commissioner. So what it looks like is most of those adjusters made over $1 million in like 3 months. Problem is, you go into an area, it's perfect for people who have been felons, because you go into an area that's totally destroyed and you have to sleep in your car for like 2 weeks and just grind it out, because you have to figure out how to get to these houses. How do you solve this problem? But for every insurance claim, when it's drafted out, so in Florida, if a house is $1 million, you don't get paid $50,000. You get paid a percentage off of however much you appraise it for, and however much you can actually justify it being appraised for, but this is information that we don't know. We think that the creme de la creme is to be an insurance agent and work your way up and sell for this company and that company and that company. When I sat there 7-8 months pregnant with my feet propped up every day, working 13 to 18-hour days, saying, okay, this lady has a tree that's about to fall over her house. How can I get her a check cut and overnight it, and an adjuster there and someone with a tree cutting service in FEMA in the next 24 to 48 hours when she lives off of with water surrounding her home. So if an adjuster can figure that out, they make a lot of money. So anyways, I'll let you continue on, but adjusting is the way to go, not insurance licenses.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, so but that, and like I said, I'm in every space that I could possibly be. Like last Wednesday, Alliance for Safety and Justice had Survivor Speaks in Columbus. I'm their Lucas County representative. And that's bringing a lot of people around the country, but exclusively from Ohio, that deal in advocacy for victims of a crime. But not only that, the people who advocate for the people who are the criminals in the crime, to make sure while they're locked up, they don't come home worse criminals or victimize anybody else, but that they are not only come home into probation but community control, which means they're required to take some of these programs I spoke on. They and figure out their life. So what you're good at, it's not like a script of we have carpentry, we have you can drive a truck, you can do this. There's actually a large list of different things people can do. And I usually tell people coming home, you might want to figure out what you're good at and maybe start a business, and we'll help people with that as well.
Thank you. Now, how did we meet, Mr. Parks?
How do we meet?
Yeah, how do we meet?
We met working on a case for Kevin Upchurch. Upkins, I'm sorry, Kevin Upkins. Yeah, and bro, it just seems like bro is getting a raw deal, which is it's a pattern we're seeing where people are convicted with no evidence. They're convicted off of past crimes, off of decisions they made, and I think it's like a lesson we need to learn, like when we set precedences. So if you steal something in junior high and then high school, you get in a violent fight and they let you off, but they documented it. Then you get grown and you have a domestic violence issue or sell some drugs and get arrested. You're a perfect candidate. If they have to close the docket, it's not about innocence or guilt. It's about, hey, we're going to close this case and you're the perfect guy to do it. And so working with him and listening to his story and paying attention, it seems like it's a clear case of, your homeboy got caught red-handed. And then so he says, hey, I know who did this, which 9 times out of 10 it'd be the guy who telling you, hey, I know who did this. But, and then you get arrested, and then to find out that he's arrested off a 3-strike law and received a sentence way too long to not have evidence.
There is not a 3-strikes law in Georgia. That's in Florida, sir.
So what is the law that has him with that long sentence? What do you know the law code?
I don't know the law code. What he got was life with life plus 40 years, but they didn't quantify what life looks like. So that means once he dies, there's an additional 40 years. So life plus 40. That is Florida, where they have something called the 3-strikes law.
So can you so what is that law called, where with no gun and no evidence, where you can get life plus 40 years? And like,
that's called Georgia law, where 1 out of 4 people are incarcerated for no reason at all. That's called Georgia law, where you pay taxes. And
what did I miss? Did they say somebody got murdered in the route?
No, nobody got murdered.
Did somebody get hurt mortally?
Nobody got hurt.
Like, I'm not understanding. Like, what is the life plus 40? Can you please? Because you there. I've lived there. I am but I haven't been to prison in Georgia. I haven't, I've been to jail for a traffic ticket. I went to jail when they tried to get me to lie on some guys who broke the law. I won't get into the charges. And when I went lie on them, they brought me in the case, and then they had me as the main defendant at the end. And I literally had to take 3 lie detector tests, which I passed with flying colors, to keep me out of jail and trouble. But I know
Oh,
Georgia.
you froze for a minute, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know the last part you heard, but I said I had to face a situation where I had to take 3 lie detector tests to prove my innocence. I was innocent. I went from the witness, and I wouldn't say what the prosecutor wanted me to say, to being put on the docket with the defendants, then from to be the main defendant. And I had the co-defendant saying, hey, yeah, we'll say he did something too if we can go home early. I literally took 3 lie detector tests. Tim Chapman, the police chief in Dublin, he was a GBI agent at the time. He said, this ain't sounding right. How did he go from defendant to the main person? I mean, went from a witness to the main defendant. So he had them give me 3 lie detector tests, and they found out I was the only one telling the truth. Even the victim wasn't telling the truth. The victim never said I did nothing to them, but the state and my co-defendants did. But even when they questioned the victim, because the state had them say that these guys did what I wouldn't say they did, but everybody failed but me. So I get to go home, and all of them had to, but I don't trust Georgia when it comes to incarceration. But I'm not. See, so what I came up with, I'm working with law enforcement. What I came up with is I'm going to work with them and change their policy. I'm going to work with them and hold them accountable. I'm going to work with them and free some people who shouldn't be there, or free some people who was there, and make sure they don't go back. So my strategy is to work from within, to help you see what the game is. The game is let's make a deal. It's not about innocence and guilt. And if you're right, or even if you made a mistake, I want to work to help you get your life together. But like with Kevin, I think with all the growth that he's made, he's graduated with his paralegal. He's engaging and still doing community service from behind bars. I think he is one of them people that, when Trump was freeing people, or we speak about bringing people home to actually head these reentry programs in Georgia, he is a person to consider to bring home and think about, hey, let's train him while he's in here. If we got to give him 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, I'm not advocating for that, but that's still shorter than life. Train him up, bring him home, and let him prevent the future incarceration of thousands, if not millions, of our people. It's only right. What threat is he if you had no weapon, no victim? You put the fear of God and death in him. Train guys like him to come home. Now, the ones you have hardcore evidence on, do what you do. Give him a lie detector test, even if that's, what you need to do. If he's adamant about his innocence, you're adamant about his guilt, and it's a toss-up of taking a man's whole life, give him a lie detector test. Weigh the scales evenly, but that's what my fight is. My fight isn't against men. It isn't against the system. It's against the way we think, and against us knowing or thinking we have no options. It's me inseminating the information that, hey, we have already started a revolution. Hey, we're already in the revolution. We just ain't informing each other. Because if everybody put their nickels together, and when I say nickels, I mean the knowledge that we're obtaining, the spaces that we sit in, if we unify, the oppression is dead. We are our only oppressors right now. And yes, we have opposition. Yes, we have people who have been in power for so long. But we, if I can be clear, are our own opposition. The lack of knowledge is why we're failing and perishing. And that's it. And you asked the question. I want to tell you, it was a blessing that I met you. How I met you is kind of important. It's all right, because that's one endeavor. But that I met you in all the endeavors that we've accomplished just in a couple of days, Queen. Come on now, it's the creators in this mix. So I'm very grateful I met you, and thankful for this platform. I am thankful that I'm able to do the things I do, but I'm more thankful for people like you who empower people like me, because without the empowerment, I am not viable in the community. I'm not, viable or available to these children, these women, and these elders that I've been saying since a kid. This is my mandate, is the women and elders and children. And how can I do that if I don't groom my brothers to at least have the knowledge I have? I can't ask you to think and move like me, but I can empower you with the decision. And that's what I'm on. So every space I'm in is for that.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about Mr. Anton?
That's it. I'm Anton Park Sr. on Facebook, G720 on Instagram. And, if you search Anton Park Sr., I try to keep everything my real name, no aliases. So I'm easy to find. My phone number been the same for 20 years. I got a business number, but, I'm easy to find. Anybody needs my help, any conversations that you want to have about structuring some stuff in your area. If I don't have the answers, I will definitely direct you directly to the person who can empower you and be a solution. But yeah, reach out. And if not, I'm very happy to have this time to speak on some of the things and to be able to empower some of the brothers to know I didn't graduate high school. I didn't have no silver spoon or nothing, but I'm being offered opportunity because of my choices and my thought process now. I'm the same person, but with a different thought process, and a lot of doors are opening. So if you come to me with that same thought process, I can direct you to a new world. I can give you some keys that will change your life. No, a felony is not it. I don't care if people call you fat, black, ugly, white, short, this, that. If you try and you really want to succeed, just seek and ye shall find. So thank y'all, and that's it for me.
Well, we have 7 more minutes. Mr. Julius Hall is in the background. I doubt that he wants to join in on this conversation. So how about we spend this last 7 minutes talking about justice for Kevin Upkins, who was the reason why I met you. Well, you know what? How about 5 minutes? I guess Julius made sure that I got that correction. How about we spend this time talking about the progression of the gangs? Like the other day, I was sitting there and I had this thought, not saying it's accurate, but I had this thought and I was wondering, like, what if all of us are asleep and the people that we think are asleep are actually woke? So what that looks like is, like the Black Panther Party, or, who created a lot of the programs, the social programs that are here. Before the Census Bureau was doing the numbers and everything else, a lot of those programs are still in existence. They just no longer benefit our communities. So when it comes to gangs and gang relations, can you share, I don't know if you can or can't, but can you, as a mediator, share how you've been able to unify gangs so that these young people, black, brown, white, pink, purple, green, yellow, orange, polka dot, can stop killing each other?
Well, see, this is the thing. I think like with the movie Colors and a lot of, California gang wars, that people have an assumption that, gangs started as we gonna sell dope and get guns. But gangs actually started like community reparations or community repair and progress, is the Crips. They were Crips first, but they started to stop people from coming to the community in whatever way they thought was disrespectful, to clean up their community, keep their women, elders, and children, cool. And the same thing with the Bloods. Yes, there were crime elements in every community, but the main gist was to be together and to protect your community. The GDs, the organization that was started for the same thing. When you talk about the Black Panthers, Jeff Fort, Larry Hoover, I'm not even really supposed to mention his name right now because he has a legal defense going on, but I don't think they mind because I'm all positive and productive. But he is one of the people that I do want to see come home and teach. But the issue is that people didn't understand in the 80s and 90s how it started. So when they got rid of some of the leaders and some things were going on, I was told a story. And I believed it because I was told from one guy in California and one guy in Chicago that in the 60s and 70s, they would go to alleys, the gang leaders to certain alleys, and they will find crates of guns and cocaine or weed. They will find crates, like not crates like at the store, but like military type crates of these things in the neighborhood, specifically where the leaders would find them. And so there was an insemination to put guns, drugs, and then counter intel agents as gang members into the streets. So that's when you start seeing a change of community, and then you start seeing gang activity, so-called. And so it's not really a progression, we're regressing, because like I said, I was taught that, but then when I start being taught the actual literature of what I claim to be, it was actually opposite. It was teaching me political structure. It was teaching me how to be community and family. It was teaching me morals. It was teaching me discipline. A lot of things that contradict what I was seeing in movies and TV and hearing on the street about, the community organizations that we call gangs. And then I started finding out as I was going state to state that there was a lot of people who were in poverty and inducted into gangs who thought like I thought, but we were still hearing these cries of war and killer and this and that. So how I got involved, like I said, I had my first son, so I made a change. There was nothing drastic that made me make a change, but my son, but not engaging, I could still watch. Like Willie Knighton in Ohio, he did a life sentence for murder, but he was released when it was found out he didn't do the crime. And it was sort of like Kevin's situation because he didn't do this specific crime, but he had already been known. So when he got released, he was placed by the courts, the judge who locked him up, as the head of our felony reentry here. So now Willie is with United Way. He has a TED Talk or RC, which is the disease RC, but it's called Returning Citizens. And so we have a lot of people who have been working forever to change the narrative and to teach these young guys that you didn't come from no killers, thugs, and pimps. You actually, if you claim in this gang, there are rules and regulations that are supposed to empower us and teach us how to engage in politics and policy. So my thing is, I never
Hold on, you got about 10 seconds.
Okay, so my thing is, you guys should look into education and economics in the community and leave the crime where it is, if I can say anything in my last few seconds. Because it's available. The news is not going to report it, but it's available.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anton Parks, Sr. We appreciate you and all that you've contributed inside of us having a conversation about justice instead of lack of justice.
I really appreciate being here.